You're watching KSL Sports Live.
Hey, you know, we're in an all-star kind of mood tonight right here on KSL Sports Live. Jazz forward Lauri Markkanen set to participate in tonight's three-point contest. He tells us the key to a successful contest coming up. Puka Nacua stole the all-star celebrity game spotlight on Friday, and we take a walk through Utah Jazz all-star history. Plus, college football. Brett McMurphy talks to KSL Sports about the upcoming season of Big 12 football and where he thinks the Utes will finish up. But with just 3 weeks left in the college basketball season, we start with some big resume building or potentially resume bruising games. The Utah State Aggies on the road against a quad one opponent this afternoon, but the road has been a place they have thrived this season. 10 wins away from home, which is second most in the nation behind only Indiana State. But they're in Fort Collins against Colorado State, a team that is 13-1 on their home floor this season. 5 minutes into the first half, Gray Osborne backs his way down and draws the foul. Aggies are down by just a point, but the Rams go on a 14-2 run. That's Taviante Jackson with the reverse. 5 minutes to go. Darius Brown to Ian Martinez on that layup. Aggies down 14. A couple minutes later, Osborne to the rack for the jam. The deficit's not getting smaller, though. They're down 17 at the half. The Aggies have a big hole to dig out of in the second half. Osborne inside with the mini hook, but they're still down by 18. Next play, Khalifa Sacco gets under the hoop, a little reverse there. Aggies chipping away. Ian Martinez on the inbounds pass with the dunk. But Utah State's defense, they couldn't get enough stops. Patrick Carrier with the alley-oop. USU needing more of these. A Jose Uduje three ball in the corner gets the Aggies to within 15, but Colorado State was dominant all the way through. They led from start to finish in this one. Really rough one in Fort Collins for the Aggies. They lose by 20, 75-55. Osborne had 15 points, 13 rebounds. The Aggies only shot 38% from the field and were out-rebounded by 13 in the loss. Utah State's loss now drops them to 9-4 in the Mountain West standings. They're tied with San Diego State for the lead. San Diego State will be in Logan to face the Aggies on Tuesday night. Get ready for that one up in Logan. All right, through its first 25 games this season, BYU basketball has not lost to a team outside of the top 50 in the net rankings. That's one reason why they're receiving very favorable seeding projections for the NCAA tournament. So today, you'd think this matchup is a cakewalk. They're taking on the 136th ranked team in the net. BYU at Oklahoma State, a team that has lost 9 of its last 11 games. About 5 minutes into the game, BYU finally makes its first three-pointer. Spencer Johnson ties the game up at 11, but BYU was just 2 of 16 from 3 in the half. The Cowboys' response, a powerful one. Keon Williams with the hammer. It's 18-13 for Oklahoma State. BYU's big man, Fousseyni Traore, kept him close. Gets 2 with the left hand to cut the lead to 5. But Oklahoma State was sharp shooting from three-point range. John Michael Wright, his third three of the half. He had 11 points in the half. Oklahoma State led by 15 at halftime, 49-34. Early in the second half, Oklahoma State's lead would grow to 20 with less than 13 minutes to go in the game. BYU really needs something to get going. And something does get going. Trevin Knell hits the three to cut it to 66-49. Then Traore in the paint, back-to-back buckets, helps bring BYU to within 13. Richie Saunders caps off the 9-0 run with an offensive rebound and an off-balance putback. Moments later, Jackson Robinson cuts the lead to 10 with the three-pointer. 6 minutes to go. There's still a chance here for BYU. But every time they got close, Oklahoma State would respond with something like this. Brandon Garrison throwing one down Karl Malone style. And BYU trailed wire to wire in their game as well, losing 93-83. Only one Oklahoma State player averages double figures in scoring today. 5 scored 13 or more. And the Cowboys made 11 three-pointers, which is the most BYU has allowed in a game all season. Traore led BYU with 17 points in the loss. The top 6 teams in the Big 12 standings will get a first-round bye in the conference tournament. With today's loss, BYU currently in that 7th spot with a 6-6 conference record. Weber State riding a 5-game win streak today, taking on the #1 team in the Big Sky, Eastern Washington. Dylan Jones starting to heat up, hits the three. Then a minute later, another three to cut it to 1. Later, Jones is going to find KJ Cunningham. That three makes it 35-27. Then Jones doing some work in the post. going to get the layup to drop. He had 14 in the first half. Weber State led 44-33 at halftime. In the second half, more Jones. This time he's going to find Steven Verplanken. Corner three ball, 60-49 for Weber. Alex, too, then gets the steal. The fast break. Punches it in for the slam, makes it 73-56. Then Dyson Kohler gets the steal. He's going to find Jones, who goes coast to coast for the bucket. Jones, 30 points, 7 rebounds, 7 assists. Weber wins their 6th straight, taking down the top team in the conference. Number 12, Baylor, taking on West Virginia. Start of the first half, Jesse Edwards with the one-handed slam. Puts West Virginia up by 1. Few possessions later, Josh Ojonwuna with the steal and the dunk to tie the game up. Start of the second half, Jaden Nunn with the step-back 3. Baylor currently has an 85-71 lead in the second half. All right, he's the greatest high school football player this state has ever seen. He was outstanding in his career with BYU, and he set new records in the NFL for rookie wide receivers. Now, Puka Nacua is part of NBA All-Star Weekend. Yeah, Nacua was a participant in the Celebrity All-Star Game playing on Team Shannon Sharp, and he had 2 of the best highlights in the game. A steal that he took back for a high-flying dunk, and then late in the game, another one-handed jam that earned him the award for the SportsCenter Top 10 Play of the Game. Nacua scored 16 points in the game as Team Sharp beat Team Stephen A. Smith. Cowboys defensive lineman Micah Parsons was the game's MVP with a 37-point performance. The main event on All-Star Friday night was the NBA Rising Stars game, which featured a pair of Jazz players, Keontae George and Walker Kessler. Kessler's team eliminated George's team in the first semifinal game of the night. Then in the championship game, Kessler chipped in 4 points, including a nice dunk, and his team, coached by Jalen Rose, won the Rising Stars championship.
Feeling good, got the prize money. Not that it's all about money, but it's pretty nice. So yeah, gonna go back home for a couple of days and get back to Utah and get to it.
Just got done with the Rising Stars game. You know, Walker did his thing and he cheated. But now the goal is to get back here next year.
Well, tonight it's all about the dunk contest and the three-point shootout. Jazz forward Lauri Markkanen will be competing for the 2nd straight year in the three-point contest. Markkanen had a few practice rounds yesterday and this morning, but his experience from last year is what will help him most.
I think, like I said, it's just the rhythm thing. I think I learned from last year that I had plenty of time at the end, and I still kind of went fast, even because it just felt that I was in the rhythm. But having that experience from last year, I think knowing how much time I got and the pace of the shots, I think that's going to be a good experience to have going into the night.
A tough dunk here.
Is this the best thing that's ever happened to you as far as your career?
No.
The most fun thing?
Well, no. My honeymoon was a lot of fun. All right. But next to that, it was good.
We love Frank Layden. The Utah Jazz connection to the All-Star Game, it's a deep one. 51 all-time selections to the All-Star Game from 16 different players throughout the franchise's history. 2 All-Star Games have been played in Salt Lake City, and twice the Jazz head coach has been a head coach at the All-Star Game as well. Pete Maravich and Truck Robinson were both All-Stars in New Orleans, but it was Adrian Dantley who was the first Jazz All-Star in Utah after the team moved here. He went on to represent the Jazz in 6 All-Star games, 5 as a starter. It was his first All-Star game in 1980 where he had his best performance, scoring 23 points in 30 minutes played. The 1984 All-Star Game was a special one for Frank Layden. He was the Western Conference head coach, joined by his players, Jazz All-Stars Adrian Dantley and Ricky Green on his roster in that game. Karl Malone is the most decorated All-Star in Jazz history, making his debut in 1988. He had 22 points and 10 rebounds in that game. 1989 marked the first time 3 Jazz players went to the All-Star Game. John Stockton and Mark Eaton joining the mailman. Mark Eaton didn't score, but he did what he does best, blocking a couple of shots. John Stockton had 11 points and 17 assists in 32 minutes. And with some help from Stockton, Malone delivered 28 points, 9 rebounds, and he was named the game's MVP. In 1993, the All-Star Game came to Salt Lake City, one of the greatest moments in Utah sports history. Malone had 28 points and 10 rebounds, while Stockton added 9 points and 15 assists. The two were named co-MVPs of the game. Malone went to 14 All-Star games in his career, which at the time of his retirement was second most all-time in the NBA. Stockton was a 10-time All-Star in his career. Today on the PGA Tour, the Genesis Invitational. Tony Finau playing good enough golf to hover near the top of the leaderboard. He was one over going into the final 3 holes today, but he heats up nice. The tee shot there on the par 3 16 finds the green. He's still 17 feet away from a birdie, but Finau has never been a putt he didn't like, and this one is dead center to the bottom of the cup. He would birdie the 17th as well. Finau's now 6 under through 3 rounds, tied for 15th. All right, the Super Bowl, that's over. But now is when the real fun of the NFL offseason begins. Preparations for the upcoming NFL draft.
Hit and drop. Swung around by Ellis.
Several local players have been invited to participate at the NFL Training Combine. We'll tell you who is going. And Brett McMurphy tells KSL Sports where he thinks Utah football will end up this upcoming season.
I like and I'm happy big coaches choose me. You know, it's a big honor to be here.
We'll reminisce about All-Star days of old a bit more. More Utah Jazz All-Star history moments are coming up after this. Scouting Combine begins in 12 days. A total of 321 NFL draft prospects have been invited to participate, including 6 from the University of Utah. Edge rusher Jonah Ellis and safety Cole Bishop headline the list. They are joined by safety Sione Vaki, offensive lineman Keaton Bills, and Satoa Laumea, and wide receiver Devon Vele will be heading there. 3 BYU players have been given that invitation to the Combine as well. Quarterback Keaton Slovis will be there as one of 14 quarterbacks in a group that includes Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, Michael Penix Jr., and Caleb Williams. Offensive tackle Kingsley Suamataia and punter Ryan Rico will also be there representing the Cougars. All right, a whole lot of changes are coming college football's way this fall. The Pac-12, that'll cease to exist for the first time in 109 years. The Utes, they'll be joining BYU in the Big 12 Conference, which will be a league of 16. And the college football playoff finally expands from 4 teams to 12. Although Utah is coming in as one of the new kids in the conference, they're still going to be one of the favorites to compete for an automatic bid to that 12-team playoff. And according to the stadium's Brett McMurphy, he told JJ and Alex on the KSL Sports Zone this week that he expects Utah to be one of the top 4 teams in.
The 5 highest-ranked conference champions get automatic bids to the college football playoff. And the 4 highest-ranked conference champions, no matter where they're ranked by the selection committee, they could rank 4, 7, 17, and 102. But if those are the 4 highest-ranked conference champs, they will be seeded numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the new playoff. In my bold projections tomorrow, spoiler alert, the Big 12 champ, I have them seeded 4th in my college football playoff bold projections. And that Big 12 champ that I have seeded 4th is none other than your Utah Utes.
Get that hype train going early. All right, the BYU women's basketball team at the Marriott Center against Kansas this afternoon. Lauren Gustin gets the corner 3 to go. She scored BYU's first 11 points. Later in the second, Gustin working in the post goes up and under for the layup. The game is tied at 31 at halftime. In the fourth quarter, Amari Whiting finds Gustin for the layup. Gustin finished with 33 points and 18 rebounds. My goodness, what a season she's having. But BYU would fall short by 8 points to Kansas. The Utah women's basketball team is worthy of another single-digit seed in the NCAA tournament, but they've struggled against other nationally ranked opponents this season. In 8 games against ranked opponents, the Utes had just 2 wins, and on Friday, hosting the 8th-ranked team in the country, it went all the way to the Final Horn.
Utah does have a timeout. Not going to take it. 5 on the clock. Young trying to get a little closer. She does!
Deja Young beats the buzzer for the 77-76 win. Their next 2 games on the road against 9th-ranked UCLA and 10th-ranked USC next week.
we have an opportunity to still achieve our goals of hosting the first 2 rounds. I mean, that is within our grasp. We're still, hunt to get a bye in the Pac-12 tournament. Like, there's a lot that we control our own destiny. To your question in terms of the narrative, I think for us and our narrative, what we're saying in our locker room, it's 1 down, and we got 1 to go on Friday or Thursday at UCLA. That's going to be our mindset of just 1 at a time.
That Utah game wasn't the only wild finish in the Pac-12 on Friday night. Under 15 seconds to play, UCLA hitting a 3-pointer to take a 1-point lead, 75-74. Then after a timeout, Oregon State scores with less than 3 seconds to go to retake the lead. UCLA's turn. Lauren Betts drains the jumper with 1 second left for the lead, but that's still enough time for Oregon State. Talia von Oelhoffen hits the game winner. 4 lead changes in 7 seconds. Beavers win.
A tough dunk here.
Is this the best thing that's ever happened to you as far as your career?
No.
The most fun thing?
Well, no. My honeymoon was a lot of fun. All right. But next to that, it was good.
From 1988 through 2002, there were only 2 Jazz players associated with the All-Star game. Okay, yes, I know. Mark Eaton was in it once during that time period. But Karl Malone and John Stockton, they were the mainstays. In 2004, we began to see a new wave of Jazz All-Stars. Andrei Kirilenko was the next Jazz All-Star in 2004. He had 2 points and a block. It was his only All-Star appearance. It was 3 years before another Jazz player was in the All-Star game. Mehmet Okur scoring 4 points in 14 minutes. In 2007, Carlos Boozer was a 2-time All-Star. He had 14 points, 10 rebounds in 2008 All-Star game. And Darren Williams finally got the nod in 2010. He was a 2-time All-Star with the Jazz, scoring 14 points, 6 assists, and 4 steals in that 2010 game. The Jazz have had a player named an All-Star in every season in the 2020s. It all started with Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert in 2020 in Chicago. The pair were named All-Stars in 3 consecutive seasons. Mike Conley finally broke through and earned an All-Star invite in 2021, along with Donovan and Rudy. In the 2023 All-Star game, it returned to Salt Lake City, and Lauri Markkanen represented the Jazz, named as starter. He scored 13 points and pulled down 7 rebounds. The G League All-Stars were showing off this afternoon in the G League dunk contest. Tavion Kinsey of the Salt Lake City Stars was one of the 4 participants in the game. Kinsey's highlight dunk was the between-the-legs 360, but it was Jordan Jackson from the Maine Celtics that took home the trophy. Number 1, UConn facing off against number 4, Marquette, and the reigning national champs did not hold back. Samson Johnson goes up for the alley-oop slam. In the second half, Tristan Newton finds Donovan Clingan for the slam. Clingan finished with 17 points. UConn routs Marquette 81-53. How about the ice in the NHL? The LA Kings taking the second-best team in the East on. The Bruins taking them all the way to the wire. End of the third, empty net for the Kings. Anze Kopitar with the game-tying goal on the deflection. It goes to overtime where Brant Clark on the breakaway hits his first career goal, and it's a game winner. Kings down the Bruins 5-4. Utah's known for developing Olympic talent, but we usually think of winter sports, right? Well, coming up, we'll introduce you to a Park City teenager who has her sights set on an Olympic sport this summer in Paris. Park City, you think of skiing, snowboarding, bobsleigh, luge, and sailing? With the second Winter Olympics on the way, Park City is arguably the winter sports capital of the United States, but really sailing? One of Utah's next Olympic hopefuls, though, has her sights set on Paris this summer in a boat.
That is me in a laser. That's just one of the race nights. It's probably one of my favorite photos of me sailing because I'm just not really in the boat.
16-year-old Morgan Vesco is your typical Park City teenager. She's very active on the winter sports scene, spends a lot of time on the slopes on both a board and skis. She even plays competitive ice hockey, a sport she's been in since she was 5.
My mom, she kind of threw me into everything as much as she could.
And she's good on those skates, playing for the Utah Lady Grizzlies 16U team, a team that travels and faces other teams in the National Girls Hockey League.
Hockey is you have to have balance, you have to be fast with your body.
But hold on, that's not where this story began. It began here.
It's probably one of my favorite photos of me sailing.
That's right, Morgan is a sailor, racing in a laser, a small single-handed dinghy, and she's really good, like good enough that this weekend she's competing at the U.S. Olympic qualifier in Miami.
I'm eager to get there and see what is waiting for me. I want to be able to make new connections with people. I think it will be an amazing event.
Sailing, a sport she also started as a frightened 5-year-old.
I remember there were moments where I was like holding my coach's hand like, I don't like this, the boat's tipping.
To now one of the top female racers in the country who, with a top 3 finish in Miami, will be headed to Paris.
That would be insane. I feel like that'd be life-changing for me.
We are rooting Morgan on. The college baseball season began this week, and in Eastern Carolina's opener on Friday, Parker Bird, who had his leg amputated after a boating accident 19 months ago, became the first Division I baseball player to ever play a game with a prosthetic leg. Bird came into pinch hit and received a long-standing ovation, a very emotional moment for him and his family, who was in attendance as well. He did reach first base on a walk. We'll be right back. High school hoops, number 2 Olympus taking on number 10 Skyline on Friday. In the first quarter, Dutch Dowdell for 3, part of a 15-1 run to start the game. In the third quarter, Dowdell with the steal. How about the finish? Throw it down. They're up 76-32. Olympus ran away with the game. Titans get the win 86-49. We'll see you tonight at 10 with all-star highlights. Lowry in the three-point contest.